What if the greatest collection of human knowledge ever assembled did not vanish in a single night of fire, but slowly dissolved through neglect, politics, and indifference? What if the real tragedy of the Library of Alexandria is not that it was destroyed, but that we never truly understood what it represented? For centuries, we have imagined flames rising over ancient scrolls, a dramatic end to civilization's memory. But history is rarely that simple, and the truth is far more unsettling. Because the story of the Library of Alexandria is not just about loss, it is about ambition, power, knowledge, and the fragile institutions that try to preserve it. The Library of Alexandria was not merely a building filled with books, it was an audacious experiment, a bold attempt to gather all recorded knowledge of the known world into one place. The vision emerged under the rule of the Ptolemaic dynasty in Egypt after the empire of Alexander the Great fractured into competing kingdoms. Alexandria became a cultural and intellectual capital of the Mediterranean. The rulers of Egypt understood something profound. Power was not only military or economic, it was intellectual. The library was closely connected to the Mouseion, an institution dedicated to the Muses, a community of scholars supported by the state. Unlike modern libraries, this was not a quiet public reading room, it was a research institution. Scholars lived there, they were funded, housed, and fed. Their task was to read, copy, compare, debate, and produce new knowledge. The ambition was unprecedented. Ships arriving in Alexandria were reportedly searched for books. Any texts found were copied, in some cases originals were kept and copies returned. Works were gathered from across Greece, Egypt, Persia, India, and beyond. It is estimated that the library may have held hundreds of thousands of scrolls, though exact numbers remain debated among historians. What mattered was not just quantity, it was intellectual scope. Mathematics, astronomy, medicine, poetry, geography, engineering, knowledge was not compartmentalized, it was cumulative. It was here that Euclid refined geometry, here that Eratosthenes calculated the circumference of the Earth with astonishing accuracy, here that scholars compared different versions of Homer to establish reliable texts. The library was not only preserving knowledge, it was systematizing it, organizing it, critiquing it. And yet, the most famous part of its story, its destruction, remains one of history's most misunderstood narratives. There was no single confirmed catastrophic event that erased the library in one moment. Instead, historical evidence suggests a series of damages over centuries. During Julius Caesar's campaign in Alexandria, a fire broke out in the harbor area. Some ancient sources suggest that warehouses storing scrolls may have burned. Whether this fire reached the main library remains uncertain. Later, political turmoil, economic decline, and shifting priorities likely weakened the institution. Patronage matters. Without funding, scholars disperse. Without scholars, libraries decay. In the 3rd century, the Roman Emperor Aurelian fought in Alexandria, and parts of the city suffered heavy destruction. It is possible that what remained of the original library was damaged during these conflicts. By the 4th century, the intellectual center had shifted. Christianity had become dominant in the Roman Empire. Pagan institutions lost support. The Serapeum, often described as a daughter library, was destroyed during religious conflict in 391 CE. By then, the original institution had likely already declined significantly. There is no reliable contemporary evidence that the library was destroyed by a single dramatic decree, no confirmed order to burn all scrolls. The idea of one final catastrophic blaze is largely a later literary construction, powerful, memorable, but historically uncertain. The true story is slower, more complex, and perhaps more disturbing. Institutions do not disappear only because they are attacked. They disappear when they are no longer sustained, when political priorities change, when intellectual freedom narrows, when economic resources shift elsewhere. The Library of Alexandria was vulnerable because it depended on centralized power. Its survival was tied to rulers who valued scholarship. When those rulers changed, when the cultural ecosystem transformed, the institution weakened. Knowledge itself did not vanish. Many works survived through copies preserved elsewhere, in Rome, in Constantinople, in the Islamic Golden Age, in medieval monasteries. The transmission of ancient knowledge was fragmented, but not extinguished. And yet, something unique was lost: the scale of centralized intellectual ambition. The idea that a state could sponsor a global project of collecting, comparing, and expanding all human knowledge. The Library of Alexandria represents an early attempt at what we might now call a universal archive, a place where geography did not limit thought, where ideas from different civilizations met and interacted, where scholars were encouraged to question, measure, calculate, and synthesize. It reminds us that knowledge flourishes in ecosystems: political, economic, cultural. And ecosystems are fragile. Perhaps the most powerful myth about the library is not that it burned, it is that it symbolizes irreversible loss. The idea that humanity once stood closer to total understanding and then regressed. But history rarely moves in straight lines. Knowledge is cumulative, but it is also rediscovered, reinterpreted, rebuilt. The story of Alexandria forces us to confront a deeper question. What sustains intellectual institutions? Is it architecture? Is it funding? Is it tolerance? Is it stability? Because even today, archives can be neglected. Universities can lose autonomy, research can be politicized, and information can be overwhelmed by noise. The Library of Alexandria is not only an ancient story, it is a mirror. It asks whether we truly understand the value of preserving knowledge beyond immediate utility. The flames we imagine may never have consumed every scroll, but indifference can be just as destructive as fire. In the end, the tragedy of Alexandria may not be that it was destroyed, but that its vision remains rare. A civilization is remembered not only by what it builds, but by what it chooses to preserve. And the Library of Alexandria leaves us with a quiet, unsettling truth. Knowledge does not survive by accident. It survives because each generation decides that it must.